We are on lesson 3.2. This is page 53. And this is about identifying opposites and absolute values of rational numbers. The essential question, how do you identify opposites and absolute value of rational numbers? We start with an explore activity. And as always with these explore activities, you're welcome to try this to the best of your ability. You can play the video when you either need a hint or when you're ready to check your answers. If you want to read the directions with me first, that'd be fine. Recall that positive numbers are greater than 0. They are located to the right of 0 on a number line. Negative numbers are less than 0. They are located to the left of 0 on a number line. Water levels with respect to sea level, which has elevation 0, may be measured at beach tidal basins. Water levels below sea level are represented by negative numbers. The table shows the water level at a tidal basin at different times during a day. Graph the level for each time on the number line. So we've done something like this before. The only difference here is we've got some positive and some negative numbers to deal with here. So let's check out the first one. At 4 a.m. is 3.5. And I think what I'm going to do here actually is I'm going to enlarge the page just a little bit so we can see the numbers really good and the number line really good. Okay. So at 4 a.m. we've got point A, and that's going to be at 3.5. And there's no 3.5 on this number line right here, but what there is there's a 3 and a 4. So here's what you have to know. You have to know that 3.5 is 3.5. And so we go over 3 spaces, and then we go over halfway to 4. 3.5 is right in the middle. When you do this, make sure that you put that point pretty close to exactly between the 3 and the 4. So that's A. B is at 2.5. It's the same concept here, but it's halfway between 2 and 3. 2.5 is the same as 2.5. So B goes here. C, negative 0.5. I want to remind you that the negative numbers are to the left of 0. So if I go to 0, I'm going to go to the left. And I want you to notice that I don't even go to the left a whole space. Negative 1 would be here, but this is 0.5. This is 0.5. So negative 0.5 is only halfway between 0 and negative 1. That's point C. Point D is negative 2.5. So I'm going to go to negative 2, and I need to keep going another half. Negative 2.5 is between negative 2 and negative 3. And point E is at 0.5. Now that's a positive, so it's going to be to the right of 0. But again, it's not all the way to one whole. 0.5 is just a half, so I have to go over a half. All right, if you got any of those wrong, please fix them and make sure that they are labeled. Question B says, how did you know where to graph negative 0.5? So there's kind of 2 parts to this question here. One part is the negative, so it's to the left, and then the other part is 0.5, which is a half. So I'm going to say to the left, half of a space. That's about all the room we have. If you want to try to describe that, should have probably said to the left of 0, half a space. I think I might rewrite that just a tiny bit. Just make it just a tiny bit better. To the left of 0, half of a space. I don't know if I love that answer, but I think you probably get the idea. You could probably say a different way of saying that. You could probably say halfway between 0 and negative 1. That would work too. That's a better answer, isn't it? I'm going to fix it. Halfway between 0 and negative 1. That's a good answer. I like that. I'm more comfortable with that answer. Either way, you get the idea. All right, so let's go ahead and check out the next question. Question C, I'm going to go ahead and do this without moving it up. I'll move it up in a minute. At what time or times is the level closest to sea level, and how do you know? So let's go check out sea level. Do you remember from the directions above that sea level is 0? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go find sea level, and sea level is right here. If sea level is right there, what's closest to that? Well, there's 2 points that are close to it. E is a half a space to the right, and C is a half a space to the left. They're equidistant, so these 2 are my answers. So it says at what time or times is the sea level closest to 0? How do you know? So I'm going to start with answering with the times. C is noon, and then I have another answer. E is 8 p.m. So I'm going to say noon and 8 p.m. And then it says, how do you know? And I'm going to say, because they are closest to 0 on the number line. That's how I got my answer. I looked at what was closest to 0 on the number line. So I'm wiggling the answer here to make sure you can see it. I chose those 2 times, those 2 points on the number line, because they're closest to 0 on the number line. All right, let's move on to the bottom of the page. Let's clear the annotations and the text. Scroll the page up. Question D says, which point is located halfway between -3 and -2? So I'm not going to put -2.5, even though I know that's the answer. I'm going to go up and I'm going to look. -2.5 right here, you can see, is point D. So that's what I'm going to write as my answer, because it says which point is located. Which point is located between -3 and -2? It's D, -2.5. Both of those answers are good. And question E says, which point is the same distance from 0 as D? And I don't remember that. I have to go look. So D right here is -2.5. And so what I'm going to look for is its opposite, because the opposite is the same distance from 0, but on the opposite side of the number line. So if the opposite of -2.5 is +2.5, then that means my answer is B. So I'm going to go back down to my deal here. Which point is the same distance from 0 as D? The answer is B, +2.5. And I'll just remind you that this answer was D, -2.5. All right, one more, reflect. And I think what I'm going to do here for this reflect is I'm going to go ahead and grab the number line and bring it down here. So what I'm going to do is take a picture. Watch how this works. I use this tool to take a picture of the number line, and then I copy it to this current page. I'm going to bring it down. I'm going to move the page up, and now I have a number line to show my work here. So question 1, reflect, says, communicate mathematical ideas. How would you graph -2.25? Would it be to the left or to the right of point D? So I think I remember. Let me go look and make sure. D was the one that was -2.5. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put D on here. D is right here. We knew that from earlier. D is right here, and that's -2.5. Okay, so now I have to graph this one, and it kind of looks the same, but I guess it's a little different, 2.25. Where does that go? Well, there's a couple of different ways to know this. First of all, I would ask you, let's say this were money. How much money is that? You would say 25 cents. So I would then ask you, well, how much is 25 cents compared to $1? And one answer would be it's a quarter, 1/4, 1/4. It's a fourth of $1. So one way to think about this is -2.25 is equal to -2 1/4. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, how does that help me right here? It helps you in this way. Let's take this number and think about where it would go on the number line. It's going to be past -2, so I'm at 0, there's -1, there's -2. Now I have to go a fourth. I have to go a fourth of the way over to between -2 and -3. This is a half. So that's halfway. Where would a fourth be? Well, a fourth is a half of a half. There's 1/4. The middle would be 2/4. This one would be 3/4. So this right here, believe it or not, would be -2 1/4, which is the same thing as -2.25. So it says, how would you graph -2.25? Would it be to the left or to the right of point D? Well, the first part of the answer, it says, how would you graph? I would say, I put it 1/4 of the way past -2 towards -3. I would just say that. I put it 1/4 of the way past -2. And then it says, would it be to the left or to the right of point D? To the right of point D. Now that is a tiny bit of a complicated question, but mostly the thing I wanted to review with you here was that negative 2 1/4, or 2.25, is the same as negative 2 1/4. Okay, we are done with page 53. Good job.